Energiproduksjon til havs. Og den første som skal inn, hun heter Oksana Lipka. Добрый день, Oksana.
Hello.
Добрый день.
Добрый день.
Меня зовут Ула.
Очень приятно, Оксана.
Хорошо. Okej, det var det kunde du sist. She's going to talk about her research about the fish stocks in the North Atlantic. So, okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, colleagues, for this opportunity to be again here with you. I am very pleased. And I would like to present not mainly my research, but research of climate scientists and what can we say useful for you. Next slide, please. First of all, in this Monday was a big event. The new sixth assessment report of the Intergovernmental Platform on Climate Change has been issued. This is volume 1, which is talking about the physics of climate change, what is going on, what can we expect in future and why. And this time the results are not very optimistic. And first of all, I present you observed results and later projections. All results are in a, sorry, please return to the first back to the back slide. Next, yes. Too late. Okay. First slide after the cover. One back, please. Yes. This report is open for free and IPCC website, just type Climate Change 2021, and you will have access to 3 volumes. First, summary for policymakers. This is the most short and in the most simple language. Next is more detailed, and mainly the slides are from it. Technical summary, and the last is a big volume around 2,000 pages, the report of the first working group 1. And what are they talking about? That yes, the temperature after 1950 we have now globally warming about 1 degree Celsius, and in the northern hemisphere even higher, and in Arctic, we are belonging to the Arctic, is even higher more. And the ocean is also warming, but warming slowly. Next, please. Actually, ocean warming is happening at the whole depths of the ocean, and also what is detected and attributing that this warming of the ocean is just a human impact, and it caused by CO2 emission and other greenhouse gases. And also what we have in this report, that not only warming is a result, also we have acidification of the ocean and the losing of the oxygen. And again, this is a human impact on climate change. Next, please. Again, perhaps not so remarkable here in Norway and in northern Russia, but sea level rise. It's very big problem even now in many countries to the south. And this process is increasing, unfortunately, and will increase in future. Next, please. About sea ice, I think you know this much better than me, because you can see it every year that now this decade we have the historical minimum of the sea ice spread, and actually this is the minimum for the last century and the last 1,000 years. Also, this is the effect for glaciers melting and for permafrost melting. So, perhaps last 2,000 years, nobody could find such evidences. And our time is unique. Okay, please the next slide. Yes. Now, let's talk about projections. And perhaps you know that in 2015, the Paris Agreements have been signed, and there was a global goal to mitigate climate change and do not reach the level of 2 degrees Celsius. And it's better and preferable to not reach 1.5 degrees Celsius. What we have now in the new modeling and looking at our current situation, more likely that this level of 1.5 degrees Celsius will be reached by the middle of this century or even in 2030. So it's very, very close. And very likely that this level of 2 degrees Celsius will be reached also in the middle of this century. So we need, all people in the world to use every measures which we can and apply all mitigation opportunities to not reach 2 degrees Celsius. It's still possible, but it needs huge efforts of all people in all countries. Otherwise, we will reach that level very, very soon in the coming decades. Next, please. This is how it can look like global warming in different scenarios, and by the end of this century. And you can see in each scenario, Arctic and our region is warming faster. And in the most strong scenarios, we have the most strong warming. When, for example, the global temperature will reach 4 degrees Celsius, in our region it can be 6 and even 7. So the climate will be very different. Next slide, please. And warming is not the only. And what our scientists from the working group 1 are saying that there is other observed and projected impact, increasing of extreme events, hot extreme, including not atmosphere but also marine heat waves, heavy precipitation, droughts in some region, and cyclones, reduction of sea ice, snow cover, and permafrost. Next slide, please. Here you can see the table and comparing, for example, if we had any extremal events in the past, for example, one event in 10 years. Now you can see in the different projections when warming will be 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2 degrees and 4 degrees. How often can we have such events in new climate? And you see that much more often. And for event, this heat waves, for 50 years event, we will have them very often. We will have them common at 2 degrees Celsius and very often in 4 degrees. Also heavy precipitations, which can also initiate floods. You remember a recent flood in Germany and Central Europe, it was terrible. And droughts. So if we had one in 10 years, very often we will have such events every 2 years, for example. Next, please. This is how the CO2 emission can be absorbed by different ecosystems. You can see that our emissions for today and with low scenarios, at 70% that can be absorbed and accumulated by ecosystem, by land, mainly by forests and oceans. And when we are going to the more and more strong scenario, we can see that this is capacity of ecosystem is going down, and more CO2 will stay in atmosphere, and that will be accelerate global climate change again and again. So we need to apply mitigation now. We need to make more efforts to stop climate change at lower levels by lower scenarios and to not reach the most diverse consequences. Next slide, please. And again, what we have, that even now some changes are irreversible because the system response is very slow. And for example, changes in global ocean temperature is irreversible. Acidification, which we have now, also irreversible. And the started process of deoxygenation is irreversible, or will take many hundreds and thousands of years to reverse it. And again, now we have an opportunity to not reach very dangerous level if we will invest, if we will apply mitigation. And anyway, we need to adopt, because what we have now, these changes, they will not stop in recent decades. And the situation will be stronger, so we need to adopt. Next, please. Conclusions for the change in the what we have in the Barents Sea. It's more familiar for me because I used to work on climate change in the Barents Sea. And also it is connected with the Nord Atlantic. Very often the conclusions and consequences will be the same for the whole region. Of course, this is one of the most productive fishery regions in the world. Barents Sea, we have joint management of Norway and Russia. And as everywhere in the world, the climate change impact is combining with the other anthropogenic impacts. And first of all, fishery activities, but not only, also pollution, disturbing, changes of ice. And again, we have high risk of extreme weather events. Actually, talking about Russia, the Barents Sea is one of the most extreme from the Russian seas. I mean the climate extreme weather events. Next, please. 2 years ago, by WWF and under my leadership, there was a special assessment, projection and analysis of climate change in the Russian part of the Barents Sea. It is only in Russian, but it's available for free. I have presented it. I'm not repeated, just will screen. What is possible? It's possible to use more detailed projections than in the IPCC report for the Barents Sea region. Next slide, please. Let's look what we have there. This is the situation for the basic baseline period that was chosen 1979 till 2005. Sea surface temperature, bottom temperature, salinity, and level of acidity. Next, please. You can see observed changes in the sea ice. Next, please. And now you can see how is that presented in this report. For example, air temperature and sea surface temperature. For several times, all these changes are compared to the baseline period. Next, please. Also, temperature near bottom. Salinity, actually there is a sea temperature for several depths you can see in the report, as well as for salinity. Next, please. Precipitation, ice. Next, please. Minimum, how long is the ice period? Next, please. Maximum ice thickness. And you see that by the end of the century, the Barents Sea will be the whole year free from the ice. So it's not will be the polar sea more. It will look like more as a temperate climate sea. Next, please. Wind speed. Actually, in the main part of the sea, wind speed will drop the medium, but storms will be the case again. And don't forget about the rating of extremal events. Next, please. Cloudiness, foggy days. Next, please. Maximum waves. Next, please. And acidity level. You can see that the level of acidity is strongly going down, comparing the current situation. Sea level changes are not so big here. Next, please. And conclusion of that report is very similar to the IPCC report. Temperature rising everywhere, in air, sea level, and in the sea from the top to the bottom, everywhere, at each depth. The Barents Sea will be free from the ice for the whole year. And what is good, we will have less clouds and fogs. We will have more sunny days. But the negative impact is strong acidity increase, high risk of strong storms in spite of the medium winds velocity will drop, sea level rise, but not very strong here, and very high risk of coastal erosion, especially in the regions with permafrost, and as a result of the decreasing of ice coverage and storms. Next, please. About this impact ranking, we can look, are they good or bad or neutral? Any positive impacts now in this table are green, neutral yellow, and negative, and red are negative. And for fishery, we have a shift for fishing areas. Theoretically, it is neutral, but perhaps for fish management, it can be negative. Changes in fish stocks. Also, we will have less common species, but instead them, we will have new species and possible to use them. So, theoretically, it is neutral. In practice, it may need investments and big efforts to use new opportunities. So maybe in practice it is negative too. And the decline of some traditional species stocks. This one is negative. For shipping, the majority of impacts are positive, but iceberg danger will still present, and increased risk of extreme weather events is also negative. Next, please. 2 or even 3 years ago, there was issued report of Food and Agriculture Organization, especially for fishery. And also it is available for free, you can find it. It's global, but it's possible to find information for our region too. Next, please. Experts try to compare different warming levels and for fishery, for catch potential, under different scenarios and for different warming levels for different times. And you can see that A and B, this is low emission scenario. You can see that our region perhaps may have even some new opportunities, and especially in high Arctic, we will have even increase in maximum catch potential. But when we switch to the more strong climate change scenario, stronger warming, we will have losses, evidently, everywhere. And you can see that the time horizon at upper slides, 50, the middle of the century, and the slide and the pictures B at the end of the century. So for us, it's better to not reach the strongest scenario of global warming, because even in the middle of the century, in such case, we will have losses. Next slide, please. I think it's difficult to project, but the main conclusion is that in short term, now we can have even profit of global warming in the Nord Atlantic, in the Barentshavet, etc. Even you can see by from 15 to 55%, 59%. But please remember that by the end of the century, anyway, we will have loss. Next slide, please. There are many publications about solutions and any opportunities, how to adapt to climate change and how to deal with them and how to use new opportunities which northern countries have now. For example, one from Climb Fish project. Next slide, please. I think here you are the better expert than me, and you can decide what is more reasonable in your country, in mid-zone, what is possible to apply, what is irrelevant. But the main conclusion is that now we need to adopt. We have time to adopt before the middle of the century, to use new opportunities and to minimize our losses. And there are many publications, many ideas of experts how to do this. And you know your resources, you know your opportunities, you know what you want and how you want to use them, apply them. Please think about this, because now we have time. We still have time, not only for mitigation and to avoid the strongest scenario, climate change scenarios. We also have opportunities to adopt. Next slide, please. And I wish you to have and use these new opportunities. And I wish your life will be happy and your fishery will be effective and profitable at any new climate changes. Thank you, colleagues, and good luck.
Thanks a lot, Oksana, Dr. Oksana. So now, I guess somebody might have a question. You can just raise your hand and you can come with your question in English. If you are very shy, we can translate it from Norwegian into Russian.
Yes, it seems that these changes in climate and temperatures and acidity and all these things are more dramatic in the north. than other parts of the world, the warming and so on. But do you think, can you comment on the build-up of the oil industry in West Siberia, but Novatek and Gazprom and all these companies? Can the emissions from the oil industry be a cause to this more radical changes that we see in the far north?
Actually, not only from the oil industry, but from the all industries everywhere. And this is a result, it's not only a recent decades. This is a result was, how to say, this is using of by the whole world oil, gas, coal, especially coal, for ages. So we burned too much coal, oil and gas. Also, we cut too many forests in the earth. We have changed, for example, Earth's albedo, because this is a change in land use, because we need more and more land for agriculture, we cut it down our forests, etc. So this is not only greenhouse gas emissions, and not only 2 or 3 recent decades. So this is a historical problem. And now, yes, I agree that in the industry, including oil and gas industry, they also need and apply any measures to minimize their impacts. And you know that over the world, there are also big efforts on mitigations, and first of all, regulations, and sometimes even different fees, taxes, or establishment of compensating projects. For example, if you emit here, you have to invest in any other project, for example, into the forestry, to compensate this emission by other measures on absorption. So this is very important.
Flere spørsmål? Any more questions?
Hello, Oksana. Hello.
Hello. Hello, Oksana. Nice to see you back. What do they discuss in the fishing industry, in the company? Do they think about other kind of energy on the boat, or you know what their strategy they are discussing?
But I don't know.
Det var et ærlig svar. Jeg vet ikke. Altså, hun sa jeg vet ikke.
Excuse me, because I didn't understand the question.
Okay.
About if it's about recommendation of engines for vessels. I don't know, because I'm not an engineer. What actually we have, as I know, in Russia, in marine transport, now we have understanding that we need to modify vessels, and this is also connected to extreme weather events. And the other thing is this shift of fish stocks. You can see that it is moving more and more far to the north. So we need to fish more far from the shores, and we have a longer way to our consumption, to our fishery plants, etc. So this is also a problem. And now also we have, for example, for some new species, we have opportunities to catch them, but we have no permissions for them, for example. We have no plans how to make from them food, etc., etc. So from one side we have new opportunities, but we don't know how to use them. we need to adopt, we need to invest, for example, for new vessels, for new fish plants, etc.
Okay. Flere spørsmål? Oksana, do you think the world will be able to stop this development?
I hope. I hope, and even now, my colleagues from Working Group 1, they are saying that we still have these opportunities. But for today, we need stronger efforts than before. And anyway, I hope that the worst scenario will never be reached. But also, I think that more likely the most optimistic scenarios, we miss them already. Because I don't believe that all countries will apply so big efforts to not reach that level of 1.5 degrees Celsius. So I think more likely this opportunity is missed, but I hope that we will never reach that level of 6 degrees Celsius or 4. I hope. Let's look what will be at the next conference of parties in Glasgow in November. We will see how all countries will agree and the new pathways which will be applied. Let's look.
Okay. Flere da? Okay, I think we're done. So хорошо, спасибо.
Thank you very much, Malik. I was very pleased to be here and to speak with you again.
And we hope to see you here next year.
Agreed? Thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye, Malik.
До свидания.